September 14th, 2023, which is the time and place of the Bismarck Renaissance Zone Authority monthly meeting. Welcome. I see that we have a quorum present, so we will open the meeting with the first item of business being review of or discussion of the minutes from the August 10th meeting. Are there any corrections, changes, comments, amendments? Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second? Don't all jump in at once.
I'll second it.
Some exciting stuff here. Moved and seconded that the minutes be approved. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you very much. We'll go on to the regular agenda. Item 2 is demolition for off-street parking at 224 West Broadway Avenue in downtown Bismarck. And Daniel from Community Development is going to kind of walk us through that a little bit.
Good afternoon, Chair Christensen and authority members. So this is a request for the demolition of a structure at 224 West Broadway Avenue. The ultimate plan would be to create an off-street parking lot. However, the applicant at this point is really seeking approval for the demolition first before really going forward with the designs of that off-street parking to make sure that that can work. The owner is Herman Eggers Revocable Living Trust. However, the applicant is Denton Family Enterprises, who owns the adjoining lot. They're a prospective buyer for this, and the ultimate goal would be to combine these two lots into one for the parking. So, our ordinance does require design review for any demolition. There have been a number of those in the past. There aren't really any set criteria that we do evaluate. However, I can just bring a few points of interest out to you. There are some, of course, design standards related to parking in our ordinance, so there would be the requirement for landscaping both at the front of the perimeter on the front side of by West Broadway Avenue, and likely also along the east side where it's adjacent to a residential structure. And so those are all things that would be dealt with. Of course, we don't have those designs before us today. There are a couple of design guidelines that are relevant here, and typically in a downtown area, you do want to keep street-facing buildings and to have that consistent street edge, and that's some language that is in our guidelines. And having that the interest of the entrances and the fronts of the buildings facing the street. So that is something that would be impacted here. Our guidelines do also call for reducing the visual impact of parking lots. So if you do have a parking lot extending into this site, if there's no building to block the view from the street, the intent would be to have landscaping or something as an alternative to kind of reduce the impact of the parking from the street. So those are all things that are in our design guidelines. And just to also make sure you're aware, there is a special use permit process for parking lots, or at least I should say demolition of buildings for the purpose of building parking in the downtown area. So there's a bit of a two-step process for this that happens to be written into our zoning ordinance. So if you were to go forward with this, it would also go to the Planning and Zoning Commission. They would have a bit of a different scope. They would be looking at the parking lot design itself and as well as the demolition. So that's just for your awareness. So based on all of this, one thing I should note, and this was in the staff report as well, but the building value of the structure proposed for demolition is $81,500 in our current assessing records. So that would be a loss of taxable value with the demolition. I should also note that the building was built in 1916, according to our assessing records. It is not within the downtown Bismarck Historic District, and it is not listed on the National Register of Historic Places independently. However, in our design guidelines, there is the option of exercising historic preservation components of the design of the ordinance if a building is over 50 years old. So that's an option that's available. And just to remind you, there is an Historic Preservation Commission that you could defer to if you have questions about the historic nature of that structure. They do meet monthly, so that would be an option for you too. So staff does recommend approval of the proposed demolition for 224 West Broadway Avenue, and this would be done with the following conditions. A special use permit for the demolition of for the purpose of creating an off-street parking would be approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. The design of the parking lot would meet standards of the downtown design guidelines and would be approved by the Downtown Design Review Committee. And then any substantive revisions to the approved design must be reconsidered by the Downtown Design Review Committee prior to implementation. So if you have any questions, I could try to answer. The applicant is here from Denton Family Partnerships, and he could share a little bit more about the plan.
Questions of staff before we invite the applicant up? Any questions? Nancy?
I have a couple of questions, just so that I understand. So the owner of the Dairy Queen property wants to buy the adjacent property. Okay.
That's correct.
And then, would it be more appropriate, or do you think planning and zoning would consult with the Historic Preservation Committee? It's like, we haven't run into this very often, have we?
So Commissioner Guy, that could certainly be an option, right? As it's written right now, the Historic Preservation Commission doesn't have any regulatory authority over demolitions, or anything for that matter, but they do exist as a resource, and they do approve things that are involving federal funds, but there's no federal funds here. But otherwise, they do, that's their job is to provide that guidance to the community, so that's something that could be sought after.
I mean, it doesn't seem like this would be a historic property, but, what do I know?
Custer didn't stay there? 1960. Other questions of staff? Well, we have Daniel at the podium. Anybody? Thank you, Daniel. Would the applicant like to share any comments or stand for questions?
I don't think so.
Don't have to, but there are probably going to be questions, so.
Unless I can answer questions if there's any questions.
Sure.
I haven't bought the property yet.
I understand that. If you'd identify yourself for the record, please.
My name's Mark Wepper, and I represent Denton Family Enterprises.
Okay. Questions for Mr. Weber? I have some, but I'll wait for the rest of the table. Anybody? No questions? Usually everybody else has questions. So, full disclosure, I was at the Dairy Queen last night, because they're closing in 2 days, just so everybody knows,
Oh,
the 15th for the season. And I was there probably Tuesday night and maybe Wednesday night, so I'm trying to help. So I'm a big Dairy Queen fan. That was the Dairy Queen that, when we were all kids, Elks Pool, right? That's where you got your dilly bar. So I'm in favor of the Dairy Queen. But I would also be in favor of seeing the Dairy Queen updated and renovated in conjunction with a new parking lot. Is there any plan or thought or talk about doing anything with the
I'm not involved with that part of it anymore. All they do is lease the building from me.
Oh, I see. You're the
So
landlord.
as far as
Okay.
the Dairy Queen part of it, I'm not involved with it anymore.
You lease it out to them.
I lease it to them, yep.
Okay. Because that was one of my questions, if there were any plans, short-term or long-term, to do something with the facade and the building itself. as
I
being
am
part
not
the
aware of
project.
anything, but I haven't talked to him or anything about anything either.
The other questions I have, you may or may not be able to answer, Mark, but would there be one driveway then to this entire property? Because right now there's a driveway by the house, there's a driveway on each side of the Dairy Queen, so that you'd have 3 driveways, or would they be combined?
The one that's, and I haven't talked to an engineer and
okay.
done anything like
Okay.
that yet.
No site plan, okay.
But my plan, just by thinking about it, would move the driveway that's right there by the Dairy Queen all the way to the east of the property, and get the driveway away from the people standing there and at the window. That would be my thought, would move the driveway over to the east and have that entrance there instead of the one.
Sure.
That would be on the east side of the Dairy Queen. The one on the west side of the Dairy Queen, I think that's shared with the building next door.
Which is also a neighbor's property.
Yep.
But, and that seems to make sense, what he's talking about to me. Do you think you would be open to any park-like improvements in the whole site? When the house is removed, you've got a big site there. It's gonna have to meet landscape requirements anyway of the city, screening and shrubbery and all of that stuff.
Sure.
But would there be any opportunity, and I know there's a nice, beautiful park right across Washington Street from there, but it also seems like that area, you've got picnic benches and people like to have their Dairy Queen there. I don't know if that would be an opportunity to or if I'm just dreaming here. Yeah, just a thought.
An opportunity, I didn't,
To have maybe a portion of the home site, the north portion or the south portion or whatever, be kind of dedicated for a park, a small park, like a pocket park.
I don't think there's enough room.
Okay, so the whole acquired site would be used for parking? No seating?
Yes.
Okay. Would you expand seating on the east side of where the existing driveway is then? Or would there be more seating?
Again, that would be up to the Dairy
To the
Queen
operator.
people, but probably not.
Okay,
My thoughts there, where that driveway would be cut off, would be maybe to put a couple picnic tables there, and leave that huge tree. There's a huge tree there.
Mm-hmm. elm tree, I think, yeah.
I mean, just leave that tree and kind of work around that with the, whatever, the green space or the
Yeah.
picnic tables or
Okay.
whatever, right there by the building and close to where you stand to make your order. You know.
Okay,
All preliminary, though. I haven't talked to
Understand.
anyone about anything.
okay. Those are my questions and thought bubbles, so. Again, they close tomorrow, just so you know, for the season. And last season at this time, we were told that they were closing for good and the building was gonna be demolished and removed, and thank heavens that didn't happen, so. But by the.
Nothing that I'm aware of.
No, it was by, the kids in the window, they, whatever, the workers there. All right, I've taken up my time. Anybody else have anything? If not, what are your wishes?
Question, maybe this is for staff or the applicant, like, part of our job is downtown design review, is designing or reviewing the design that's going to happen in a project.
sure.
There's nothing to look at or approve, there's no finalized idea of what it's going to be. So I'm curious why we're worrying about this now if there's nothing to worry about other than demolishing a building. Like, wouldn't we also incorporate the review of what's going to happen to this site?
I don't think that's in our purview, is it, to the design of a parking lot? Is it, Daniel?
So, third member Fink chairs, yeah, I mean, that is a fair question, and it's simply, I mean, it's written into the ordinance as demolitions do require approval from design review. I believe the intent of that was just to provide some checks and balances, so we wouldn't want the property owner to go through the process of demolishing a building and then to find out after the fact that what they're proposing would not be workable at all, and so I think it's to give a little bit of notice to the property owners from the front end. But yeah, we've had similar questions, because from our point of view, I mean, we're recommending approval simply because really there's no grounds to do otherwise, in this case.
Daniel, could we approve it and with the stipulation that it come back to us once the site plan, instead of it just going through planning and zoning and,
Yes,
engineering and all of those departments?
yes.
Okay. Nancy?
We could approve it with the conditions that are included with the staff recommendation, and the second condition is that the design of the parking lot meets the standards of the downtown design guidelines, and it's approved by us, so.
Yeah, no, I'd seen that, it's just that we're gonna do this, and then you're gonna have to come back before you do any work anyway. Okay.
The only reason I'm here is I don't own the property yet. And if I don't have approval to do the demolition and make the parking lot, I don't want it. It's just worthless to me.
Gotcha.
So that's why I'm here. If you agree that I can tear it down and make this parking lot, I'll go forward with buying it. Otherwise, I don't want it. Herman can have it,
That sounds fair enough.
Other questions or comments? No? What are your wishes?
I'd move approval with the staff
The
recommended conditions.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve, subject to the conditions set forth in the agenda. Any further discussion? Any discussion on the motion? Call the roll, please, Sandra.
Authority member Greg Zanker,
Yes.
Joe Fink,
Yes.
Kirsten Dvorak,
Yes.
Dustin Gavrilo.
Yes.
Nancy Guy,
Yes.
Chair Christensen.
Yes, that motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Item 3 on the agenda is revisions to the Applewood Group row house located at 215 West Thayer Avenue. Daniel?
Chair, Commissioners, so this, in this particular downtown design review request, Applewood Group LLC is requesting revision to their approved design. You may recall, it's been a couple of years, but on October 14th, 2021, this group approved designs for a 6-unit complex on this lot for design review, 215 West Thayer Avenue. The back building has been built. It has 3 units in it, and that is completed. There's some photos in your packet that show that. The front has not been built yet, and the owner is requesting a change to the design. Essentially, you may recall too that there was no off-street parking associated with this project in the last time. They would like to provide some parking for the site, and the change would be to include a 6-lot parking lot toward the middle of the site, as shown in the sketch included in your packet, and then leaving room on the north side that would allow a duplex. So it'd essentially be reducing the total units on the site from 6 to 5. The duplex, I believe, would be not built right away. I think their primary goal is to have the parking lot built first, and then perhaps in the following year to follow with the duplex. The applicant is here and can talk a little bit more about their own plans. So now this is a very preliminary sketch of the site and the proposal. So there are some things here that may need to be tweaked, especially the ability to back out from the spaces, which I think some people have raised. Now, one of the driveways exists, the one on the west side, and that goes all the way to the back of the lot, and that actually serves a utility site in the back of the lot. The other driveway, there is a curb cut for it, but that would need to be constructed on the east side. So at this point, he's seeking approval of this alteration. Now, there's a couple of options in how you may want to move forward with the rest of the changes. Now, obviously, the duplex would need to be changed to go from 3 units to 2 units in a building, so the approved design wouldn't fit exactly. So staff would recommend that, I'll just read the whole staff recommendation first, that we'd recommend approval of the proposed design for 215 West Thayer Avenue as presented in all submitted documents and materials with the following conditions: that building elevations and designs consistent with the approved design will be utilized for the new duplex, and 2, a revision to the site plan for the parking lot is approved prior to installation of the parking area, and 3, any substantive revisions to the approved design must be reconsidered by the Downtown Design Review Committee prior to implementation. So that condition number 1 would be basically staff would use our judgment to assess whether the approved elevations substantially match the new duplex. Alternatively, you could ask to see it yourself and have it come back to design review once they have designs for that duplex. They don't have those designs yet. So that would be an option for you as well. So with that being said, and I did, as we mentioned in the conditions, the site plan will be required for this change as well. So that's when they'll get into the real engineering details. So anyway, if I can answer any questions, or the applicant can.
Questions of Daniel? Who wants to start? David? No, not yet.
Sure, yeah, I can just kind of give you guys a couple of things to consider here. Just kind of preliminarily looking at that site plan and what I know about kind of back out distances you typically would see, I'm not sure that this plan is going to pass muster from that perspective. Typically, you're seeing a 20 to 24 foot width in a driveway when you're behind a perpendicularly parked vehicle. I don't see that distance here. I'm not an engineer, so maybe there's some ways to work with that. But kind of as a rule of thumb, I'm not seeing the rule of thumb I would typically expect to see there for back out distances. So just something to keep in mind, that the site plan approval, once it's gone through that engineering process, may not be a slam dunk. Just to make you aware of that. Yeah, so I think that's would be my main comment.
Other comments or questions of staff while we've got them? Or the applicant who is here? Would the applicant like to come forward and stand for questions? Thank you. Welcome. And your name?
Brian Dean.
Brian Dean. Questions of Mr. Dean? Am I the only one that has questions today? That's very unusual. Is this going to affect the Dairy Queen in any way?
I sure hope not.
Because it's pretty close, right? It's a half a block away.
I think the Dairy
So-
Queen is now a historical site, huh?
Mr. Dean, what assurance would be given that the duplex would actually be built and this just isn't a parking lot for the next 5 years?
Right, so we have buyers that already want the buildings that are on the end. We had them sold, and there was 3 units that were supposed to be a unit of 3 and a unit of 3. We were the 6th buyer. Our company was going to own one of the buildings. So we have removed that so that we can put this parking pad in place. So they're already sold, but they're open to what, the most important thing is to get a parking lot in. And then after we can get that in, we can look to see what options we have as far as putting it in. Because we don't want to leave such a broad space between the curb and the building that's there. So we would want to use it somehow.
David, jump in.
Yeah, I guess, just to offer some more feedback from a design perspective, I actually think turning the buildings the way in the new plan is actually an improvement from the previous one in terms of how that building meets the street from a design, urban design standpoint, so, yeah.
And I would personally agree with that. So I guess I'm a little curious on the north building that is shown, is it the duplex that would be built?
Yeah, so I think that's the original one. Yeah, that's the original one that we turned in because it was going to be. Yeah, we don't have a new plan. It would be some. If I had to guess, the space that is allowed, we would split that with an identical looking building, but instead of
The entrances would
being-
face the street.
the entrances would face the street, and then
And the
instead of being
windows,
like
okay.
30 feet wide, they might be 34 feet wide or something like that, so that the space looked appropriate.
Okay. Okay. Those are my main questions at this point. Yes,
How many parking spots?
6,
Just for, yeah.
one for each. Yeah, one for each plus an extra just in case. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
been one of the issues that we've run into, that people really wanted off-street
Oh,
parking.
sure.
So,
and under the ordinance, it's not required for this project, so.
no.
So anything's a plus. Other questions, comments? What are your wishes, David?
Yeah, I guess I'll just make a comment to the applicant here. As you're going through the design details on how this parking could lay out, you might want to consider angle parking to, and maybe a one-way driveway
So-
that would loop through the
Yeah.
site. That might actually help get you the outcome that you're looking for.
Mhm. Brad Kogstad with KLJ, I've already talked to him a couple of times, and he said there's definitely ways we can do it, but it may have to be more angled for access. Yep, so, thanks for bringing that up.
Anything else? What are your wishes?
Move to approve with staff recommendations.
Good for you. There's a motion to approve with staff recommendations. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please, Sandra.
Authority member Joe Fink,
No.
Kirsten Dvorak,
Yes.
Dustin Garbarlow,
Yes.
Nancy Guy,
Yes.
Greg Zenker,
Yes.
Chair Christensen.
Yes, that motion carries.
Thank you.
Good luck. Other business, item 4 on the agenda is an update on the Renaissance Zone renewal process. Whether we want to talk about it or not, Daniel's going to explain it all to us.
Yeah, good afternoon, Authority and Chair and Authority. So I can give you a little bit of an update on where the process is right now. I probably don't have much information beyond what most of you will know already, but we do have approvals from the City Commission, the Parks Board, and the School Board for a renewal of the Renaissance Zone program. All of those happened. Well, in the City Commission case was in April, and then in August, the other boards did make their approvals. We were on the agenda for Burley County Commission, but as you know, likely it was withdrawn. The agenda item was withdrawn by Commissioner Munson at that time due to the death of their chair, Becky Matthews. And and just the situation they were in at that time. So I think the question right now is when they would like to bring that back. And I think at our view is that it's really a decision the Burley County Commission would need to make. Of course, it's certainly a discussion that you could have here on how you would like to proceed and what kind of recommendation you would like to make for this. But I can stand for any other questions as well.
Questions of Daniel on this topic? Kristen?
When would this be able to get back on their agenda, do you know?
So the next meeting they have is on the 20th of September, and there is one in 3 meetings in October, or 2 meetings in October and 1 in November. So they are, as you know, kind of in the middle of their budget cycle. So I'm not sure, what their appetite is for adding it to the agenda at this time, but the soonest would be the 20th.
It's been suggested to me that we not jump in the middle of their budget in the next couple of weeks, and then maybe wait until October and have a chance to visit further with the elected commissioners. So I don't have a specific date in mind either, but we may need to do our homework. So I guess that's the update, unless anybody has any suggestions or questions. Our next meeting is the 12th of October, so maybe by then we'll know more. It would be good if we can keep things moving forward. Obviously, we have applicants waiting in line, so.
I was gonna ask that, along those lines, Daniel, do you know of any projects that are not gonna move forward or going to stall, waiting for a decision?
So Chair, Authority Member Fink, so there's 2 inquiries that I'm aware of that are waiting on this. The big one is already public. You've already issued design review approval for the Fleck House, so that's the former budgeted property. So that one they are waiting and to see what will happen with this. There's another inquiry that's been made, but that's the big one already.
No, just wanted to see,
Yeah,
if they've expressed any concern. Oh, I'm sorry. If they've expressed any concern to you at this point about costs aren't going down, we're not gonna see a decrease anytime soon, and likely it's gonna continue to increase anytime soon, so.
So, they have let us know that they're eager to move forward. I think I haven't heard any urgency in their part. I think they also want to make sure it's successful. They do support this program. The Lander Group did write a letter of support, and that was issued to the Burley Commission along with a lot of other letters. So they certainly support this and want to see it moving forward, but I think they are willing to wait.
anything else? All right, report from the downtowners. Kate and Dawn are somewhat otherwise occupied these days with the street fair that starts tomorrow and runs through Saturday, so it looks like they're gonna have good weather for that, and hopefully the Yellow Jackets won't be out in force this year, but you never know. Other than that, Kate didn't give me anything to report on her behalf, so. Anything else for the good of the order? Anybody have any other business you'd like to rail upon? If not, and if there's no objection, we stand adjourned until October 12th. Thanks, everybody.